and the requirements so that you will be successful applicants for these funds when they are being made available. Coordinated planning, and this involves not only the districts working with schools, but the SEA working with the LEAs is critical for these funds to be used effectively. Some of the criteria, for example, the longitudinal data systems, strongly encourage that there be conversation with locals as a part of the planning developing that application. That there be conversation across funding streams, so that IDEA folk are talking with Title I folk, and they're both talking with ed technology people that are working with those dollars. So this notion of this conference to focus on a comprehensive strategy for using these funds is a good one, and one which we would strongly support and applaud. So you see this chart shows the funding that has been distributed for the formula grants. And I won't go into that in detail. You see what the listings are. You might know that uses of funds guidance has finally been published after a long term. When I was last with you, we were in the throes of trying to get it out. But we now have uses of funds guidance for Title I, for IDEA Part B, IDEA Part C. Those were released early in September, and so those should be used as guides for how the funds can be spent. And I'm going to tell you that Title I uses of funds guidance is probably the most expansive and specific in terms of how some of those funds can be used that it's ever been. So it talks about how the funds can be used to support ed technology, how they can be used to support community schools. And there are a lot of parameters around the community schools and parts we can't support, but we tell you what can be supported with the Title I dollars. We focus on early learning, how Title I funds can be used to support that area. And in other areas, school climate surveys, measures of what the school climate is like in the school, so you're not just dependent on Title IV dollars for those types of things. Anything that can help with the assessment of needs so that you can more effectively target those funds. With the unprecedented amount of federal funding that's been put into place to support education, an opportunity is being provided to use these existing formula programs and a new formula discretionary grants in a coordinated manner with an eye towards major changes in how schools and education systems perform. I continue to emphasize that these funds should be used in a comprehensive way when possible in states and districts to maximize and to further significant new programs and initiatives linked to an integrated reform agenda. This is going to be a lot of work, but it is important that these uses of funds be thought about regarding their potential impact. And again, the need to break down silos is important. You know, we have silos at the Department of Education. Silos were invented in the schools, in elementary school, where the math teachers, when you have specialists, don't necessarily talk to the reading teachers if you have reading specialists. We have silos too. And I'm going to tell you, we probably had more conversations over the last 8 months about how we can work more cooperatively together and how we can provide better guidance than we have in my decade at the Department of Education. And so we've seen these same efforts taking place at the SEA level, at the state education level, and I know it's also occurring at the school level. We strongly encourage that. So based on all the funding that is available through R, here's how the new R grants stack up. And the next few slides will provide a description of each of them. Mac, what I want to do is to leave a copy of this PowerPoint, because some of these, in particular when you see the strategic planning chart, you're really going to love that one. But these provide some specific details that I think will be helpful as you contemplate how to use these funds, not just over the next 2 days, but over the next few weeks and months. So you see the stabilization fund phase 2, 12.6 million. failure. The grantees, and part of this is to show you where the money comes to, and it also talks about the purpose, the distribution, and the status in terms of where these are. In terms of the public comment phase for the State Fiscal Stabilization Fund Phase 2 closed on August 28th, and the applications will be published this fall. It's almost ready to be published now. And so this second pot of the stabilization dollars, the applications will be available during the month of October for you to apply and to use these dollars. For Race to the Top, we received some 1,100 plus comments, and each of those comments addressed different parts of the Race to the Top Notice of Proposed Requirements. And so folk are working with over 5,000 things that they have to address in responding. And I can tell you that people have been working nights and weekends to try to get through those comments so that this application can be available soon. And I'm going to tell you that some very good questions were asked. And so we'll have to look at those to see if there is any resulting change from what the notice has proposed. We anticipate that these applications will be out during late November, the month of December, and that we'll begin making awards for successful applications for the SIG dollars early in 2010. We're thinking late January, early February, depending on how close they are, the applications meet the requirements that's been laid out. The investing in innovation. This notice is in the final stages of being prepared for publication. This is the one pot of money in which non-public entities as well as public entities will also be able to apply. And this is really good dollars. Local education agencies will be able to apply for these dollars. Charter schools, universities, institutions of higher ed, and so on. One of the things is that we need to identify and analyze on the one hand and provide additional data, and also support effective practices that are innovative that might help. For example, we don't know as much about the effective strategies to turn around high schools as we do effective strategies to work in elementary schools. There's a need for additional work in the area of high schools, because what would work in one area might not work in another. And I think that the Gates Foundation has published a number of studies that have shown that, this strategy, while it might have worked in this particular setting, it doesn't work in the same way in a different setting. So this notice will be published during October. There'll be a period for you to comment on it, and I encourage you to do so. The Ed Technology dollars are out, and the guidance has been published. Only the 52 SCAs, meaning the 50 states, Puerto Rico, and the District of Columbia, are eligible to apply for these dollars. But there will be some funds set aside for the outlying areas, and be it Bureau of Indian Education. The Teacher Investment Fund. This is one that some of us thought had seen its last light at the end of the last budget cycle, but it has received some renewed support from Congress. And so it appears that this will be in place to support efforts to look at teacher evaluation systems and to try to link the work of teachers and the performance of teachers to the performance of kids. It will also be used to incentivize teachers, to provide supports to the best teachers. This is a very important fund in terms of the direction that the department is moving. This notice will also be published. I think it's supposed to go into clearance at the end of October. I think it's correct. And so it won't be published until early 2010. But this is